The third career weapon is called commitment plus consistency. An unusual example of commitment can be seen in online dating, believe it or not. Can you guess what is the #1 predictor of a successful match between two people on an online dating site? Well, that's been researched, and according to the co-founder of OkCupid, whose name is Christian Rudder, and OkCupid are one of the largest online dating sites in the US, the #1 predictor of a successful relationship after two people have connected on OkCupid is a person's political beliefs or their political affiliations, which party they belong to. In other words, if you're a Democrat and you date a Republican, you're less likely to have a successful relationship on OkCupid compared to a Democrat who dates a Democrat who connect online. Of course, Christian would be the first one to admit how attractive the photograph is of a person, and the personal profile that they create, which is often not true, will certainly influence if that person is chosen for a first date. There's no doubt about that. But a better predictor of a successful connection is a person's political beliefs or political party affiliation. And this is a great example of how powerful the #3 career weapon is and how it can be useful to you in your future career. Commitment plus consistency is the weapon. And for our purposes in the Bootcamp, the commitment plus consistency weapon can also be applied very effectively in your career today or also in the future. And here's a powerful example of just that. Are you ready? So imagine for a moment that you have been asked to a job interview. Somebody sends you a letter responding to your request for an interview, said, yes, please come along. Here is how the commitment plus consistency weapon could be applied in that situation. Okay, you are in the interview. The interview starts, it's in progress. As early as possible, try to get the interviewer to say something positive about you. If possible, at the beginning of the interview, if you can do that. And you can get the interviewer to do that by saying something like this. I'm very pleased to be here today and happy to give you information about myself, but could I first ask you a question? I'm very curious about why did you decide to invite me to this interview? Commitment and consistency have been triggered with that question. A warning though, the interviewer might be very aware of the weapons we're talking about today, so try to find a more personal way if you can for them to answer you that type of a question. But now let's come back to this interview situation. The main point here is just because you asked that question, the interviewer will be much more likely to begin explaining the favorable features about you they identified with. Then he or she will spend the rest of the interview seeking to validate that. You understand? Seeking to validate what they have publicly said about you. And this is the commitment plus validation weapon in action. Another example which can be very powerful or useful to you, especially when you might be responsible for running a team meeting or managing a group task, goes something like this. Imagine now that you're having a meeting with a number of people to discuss, for example, a project or future actions to be taken on a current project. That meeting is coming to an end, everybody's looking at their watches and ready to go, and they've almost mentally left the meeting already. And you know that when people leave a meeting without agreeing to a course of action, that action is much less likely to happen. But by using the commitment plus validation weapon, you can make it much more likely that action will take place after the meeting. By just applying the commitment and validation weapon. And here's how you can do that. At the end of the meeting, when everybody's looking at their watches, putting their things in their bags, and they've almost mentally left the meeting already, you stop them before they leave, and you ask each person, one at a time, to state out loud and publicly their commitment and personal responsibility for what needs to be done next. And that public commitment to action they make means that it will be much more likely that each person will in fact act on the commitments which they've stated publicly. Remember though, commitment must be combined with consistency in order to be most effective. And consistency is important for two reasons. The first reason is because people who are consistent are considered to be more trustworthy by others, and that consistency in their behavior leads other people to support them more. So it's really important for that reason that you're consistent with others, and for them to be consistent with you, for you to trust them. Secondly, people have a natural desire to stick with what they have said or agreed to at an earlier time. And people in general like to keep their promises, believe it or not, because that is being consistent. And everyone is observing that behavior all the time. Believe me, they are very observant and looking for all the signals. So the commitment plus consistency weapon says that people do not like to back out of commitments, and they try to be consistent with those commitments over time. They try very hard. Now let's go back to the interview example to illustrate this really important point, because I just want to make sure that it is very clear for you. In the interview, when you asked the interviewer to state what they wanted, why they wanted you to come for the interview, and after the interviewer explained their reasoning for your coming, they almost had to stick to that commitment during and even after the interview. Because commitments plus consistency, when applied ethically, can be extremely effective. And it is really a powerful weapon for you to use in your career today and in your career tomorrow.